Today we're going to talk about practices that are prohibited during the consecration or during Ihram. This is known in Arabic as Mahdhuratul Ihram. Things you must not do while you are in the state of Ihram. And these things are very important to learn so that you avoid them when you are performing Umrah or performing your Hajj. The first thing that is mentioned in our book, men may not wear anything that is tailored to take the shape of the body or any part of it, whether it is a robe or trousers or anything similar. Where did we get this ruling from? There was a hadith when the Prophet ﷺ was asked by one of the companions, O Prophet of Allah, what should a muhrim, that is a person in the state of Ihram, what should a muhrim wear? Now, this question is too generic because I could say you can wear cotton, you can wear polyester, you can wear skin, you can wear this, you can wear. Asks me, what is prohibited in Islam for people to eat? This is a good question. It's not generic. I could say you're not allowed to eat pork, you're not allowed to eat meat that was not slaughtered, you're not allowed to eat something that is harmful or poisonous, etc. But when someone asks me the opposite and says, what is permissible for people to eat? This cannot be listed down because there's so many things that are permissible for us to eat. So the logical is to mention the lesser, not to list a whole array of things that cannot be limited. So when the man said, O Prophet of Allah, what should a muhrim wear? The Prophet said, ﷺ, answered him in a more intelligent response. He said, a muhrim must not. So the Prophet limited the things that you're not allowed to wear while in the state of Ihram, which means that anything else is okay. So the Prophet said, ﷺ, the muhrim does not wear the turban, does not wear a shirt, does not wear trousers, does not wear the burnus, which is like a hoodie, and does not wear shoes. Full stop. So the scholars looked into these things and started to come up with justifications. And one of the justifications is, as I have just read to you, men may not wear anything that is tailored to take the shape of the body. And jurors and scholars came up with the word makhit, which means something that was sewed with a thread. And they said a muhrim must not wear makhit. They meant that he must not wear anything that was tailored to fit his body parts. Like a shirt, it has sleeves. Trousers, it has legs to put your legs in. Underwear, the same thing, a t-shirt. People neglected the hadith and only took what the jurors said literally. So they said anything that one saws with a thread or with a string, then this becomes haram for a muhrim to wear. And they cascaded this. So it said, okay, if you have a watch and the watch band has stitching in it, it's haram. If you have a belt with stitching in it, it's haram. If your ihram garments got torn out and you saw it, then it's haram. The sandals or the slippers you're wearing, if it has stitches in it, it's haram. And all of this is baseless. Nowhere did the Prophet ﷺ mention anything like this. He simply mentioned 5 categories that you must not wear. Full stop. Do not cascade it. Do not use terminologies that were not used in the Sunnah, because this is ambiguous and it would mislead people. Like in the case of Tahiyatul Masjid. Never ever did the Prophet ﷺ mention the word Tahiyatul Masjid, the greeting of the Masjid. But when the jurors came up with this phrase or description, ignorant people later on held on to it and said that there is a specific, separate prayer that must be prayed, known as Tahiyatul Masjid. And this is wrong. Any 2 rak'ahs you pray, even if it is fard or more than 2 rak'ahs, this suffices for what is known as Tahiyatul Masjid, because you prayed before sitting down, and this is what counts. So going back to our issue, what not to wear is mentioned in the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. Stick to it. So anything that is a shirt, a t-shirt, a jacket, shorts, underwear, the same ruling. Turbans, hats, baseball hats, a kufi, anything you put and wear on your head is also not permissible. Hoodies, jackets, robes, same ruling. Shoes. So tennis shoes, jogging shoes, normal shoes, not permissible because it covers your heel and ankles. But if you open the heel area and the ankles, and your finger toes can be seen, whether you wear a sandal, whether you wear flip-flops, whether you wear slippers, all of these are permissible. During this number 1 prohibited practice, it says that women, at the end, the last 2 lines, women may wear whatever they wish, and this is true, as long as she's concealing her awrah, wearing proper hijab, it wears underneath. So underneath the abaya or the outer garment, if she wears a skirt, if she wears trousers, if she wears a shirt, if she wears a t-shirt, a blouse, all is okay. Then it goes to say, except veils and gloves, they have to leave their faces and hands uncovered. And this, again, is a misconception. This is wrong. You have to cross this out from the book. What did the Prophet say, alayhi salatu wasalam? The Prophet said, alayhi salatu wasalam, a woman must not wear the niqab and the hand gloves when she's in the state of ihram. So the Prophet specifically, alayhi salatu wasalam, said she must not wear the niqab, and the niqab is not any veil. So don't exaggerate and add to the hadith what the Prophet did not, that has an opening for the eyes, and this opening is sort of a hole in the veil, and this is where a niqab comes from. It comes from the word naqb. Naqb means a hole. Naqaba is the verb, to dig a hole. And the Prophet has prohibited a face veil that exposes the woman's eyes where she can see through. This is what's prohibited. And he prohibited the wearing of the gloves. And we all know the gloves, which is something people wear on their hands with which has separate places for their fingers, and it covers the whole hand. Ibn Taymiyyah and Ibn Qayyim, may Allah have mercy on their souls, as well as Sheikh bin Baz, Ibn Uthaymeen, and all the great scholars of contemporary times, say that there is not a single text that allows a woman to unveil her face during Hajj. Because these jurors, when they came to the Prophet's hadith that a woman in the state of Ihram must not wear the niqab, they thought that, okay, this means that she has to unveil, uncover her face. But nowhere did the Prophet say that, otherwise he would have said a woman in the state of Ihram must uncover her face. He didn't say that. He said she must not wear the niqab. If I tell you do not wear a t-shirt, would that mean that you have to come topless to an official meeting? I'm a boss and I say to my subordinates, do not come wearing t-shirts. So a smartass comes and he doesn't wear a t-shirt at all, comes topless. And I say to him, what are you doing? He said, you said don't wear a t-shirt. I meant do not. So when the Prophet says, do not wear, a muhrimah does not wear the niqab, he didn't say that she should or must uncover her face. Likewise, he didn't say that she has to have her hands visible to everybody. She could cover them like this, with her clothes, with her garment. So this is another misconception which led many women taking their hijab totally off. Men who had never seen her face have now the privilege to look and enjoy what they see, which is totally prohibited in malls and markets, let alone in the most sacred place on earth, which is Al-Haram. You get women, beautiful women, unveiling and showing their faces in the Haram, and this is totally wrong. So you have to pay attention to put a note on your books in regards to this note. Number 2, it is prohibited for a person in the state of Ihram to wear perfumes. And where did we get this from? We got this from the hadith when one of the pilgrims or one of the people of the companions who was in the state of Ihram was thrown off his ride to the ground, hitting his head and dying. So he was in the state of Ihram. The Prophet ﷺ ordered the companions to wash him, to shroud him, but to avoid putting perfume. As you know, when we wash a Muslim deceased for burial, we perfume his body. We wash his body thoroughly and perfume it as well. The Prophet said, do not apply perfume because he will be resurrected on the day of judgment in the state of Ihram, which means that perfume is not permissible for people in the state of Ihram. Number 3, removing the hair and clipping the nails. Once you are in the state of Ihram, you cannot shave your heads until the sacrifice is done, meaning that you reach the end of the state of Ihram in Hajj. So if you have sacrifice, you sacrifice in Mina, and if you don't, like in the state of Ifrad, then you simply go ahead and shave. And the exception is if a person is sick, then there's an expiation he has to pay, as per the hadith of Ka'b ibn Ujrah, may Allah be pleased with him. Now, clipping the nails was never mentioned in the Quran or in the Sunnah. Yet jurors said that through analogy, it takes the same ruling as shaving the hair or cutting the hair. And likewise, the hair of the rest of the body, not only of the head. So even your armpit hair, your pubic hair, any other type of hair, removing it while in the state of ihram is not permissible. This is an act of luxury. Scholars use the word taraffuh. It's an act of luxury that this is not the time for it. And they measured clipping the nails to be similar to it, but as Sheikh Ibn Uthaymeen says, that this is not a clear-cut evidence, yet it is best to be safe and say what the jurors said just to avoid any controversy. Number 4, a man may not use a head cover. So we mentioned this in the beginning, wearing of turbans. But not only turbans that you goes round and round and round. This, what I'm wearing, is also prohibited. What I'm wearing underneath the head cap is also prohibited. A baseball cap is prohibited. Anything that is worn on your head is not permissible. However, you can sit under the shade of a tree. You can carry an umbrella. You can shade yourself with a big curtain on top of your head, not on it. There's no problem in shading. Unlike what the Rafid, they have buses with no roofs on top of them. And this is too extreme. The Prophet himself, ﷺ, had the companions shade him and hold something to protect him from the sun and build a tent for him in Arafat, etc. So what they're doing is definitely not according to the Sunnah. Again, in this number 4, it says in the end, women may not cover their faces with something like a veil, whether showing their eyes or not. This is totally wrong. Please cross it out. It shouldn't be in our book. Okay. Now, it also mentions in this point that the things that are prohibited in Islam for a muhrim to make, you don't immediately jump the gun and say to someone who did it that you have to do expiation. So one comes to you and says, Sheikh, I wore perfume while I was in the state of Ihram. You don't immediately say you have to feed 6 poor people or fast 3 days or slaughter a sheep in Mecca and distribute it to the poor at Haram. You have to inquire, ask, why did you wear perfume? One says, why should I ask? He's the one who committed this sinful act. Yes, but these 9 categories, or more or less, depending on how, what's the number of these, if committed due to ignorance or forgetfulness or compulsion, there's no expiation. So one comes to me, I'm in the state of Ihram, and he says, wow, this is beautiful perfume. Would you like to smell it? And I said, okay. And she, psh, psh. Wow, that's nice. Thank you. Afterwards, someone comes to me, Sheikh, you're in the state of Ihram. Why did you apply perfume? I said, I don't know. Why wouldn't I? It has a good smell. Yeah, but it is one of the things prohibited for. In this case, because he did not know the ruling, there's no expiation on him. Also, if he says, oh my Allah, subhanallah, I know it's haram, but I totally forgot that I was in the state of ihram. In this case, forgetfulness, you're exempted. Or someone comes to you with a gun and he's serious. Say, listen, either you apply this perfume, either you shave your head now. He's forcing you, and he has a gun at me, threatening me, and the threat is genuine and real. Either you do this or I'm gonna hurt you. In this case, Islam tells you no problem, go ahead with it, and there's no expiation because you were compelled, you were forced, you were under threat. So it is important to know these things. It's mentioned in number 4 that as when the person concerned learns of the prohibition or remembers, or the compulsion is ended. This is when you have to stop, and Allah Azza wa Jalla knows best. Number 5, proposing or marrying for oneself or someone else. You on this sacred journey are going to Allah Azza wa Jal, seeking His forgiveness, asking Him to accept your sincerity. When you propose, so you see an uncle and he's very kind and he's telling you about his daughter and how educated she is and how beautiful she is, and you need to get married. So you propose and say, okay, uncle, would you accept me to marry your daughter? Here you get a red flag. You have committed one of the prohibited acts of Hajj, of Ihram. And also, if you go a further mile, when he accepts and then you say to him, okay, let's get the marriage contract conducted. I have 2 witnesses. You give me the proposal. I give you. Have performed something that is prohibited to be performed while in the state of Ihram. Number 6, sexual intercourse with the missus, with the wife. And this has 2 rulings. One, if you do it before what is known as the first tahallul, because there are 2 tahallul in Hajj. One is done on the day of Eid, when you do the stoning of the grand Aqaba, the big Aqaba, and you shave your heads. Now everything is halal for you with the exception of intercourse. When does intercourse become permissible? Is when you perform Tawaf al-Ifada and Sa'i al-Hajj. With this, you've concluded everything from the pillars of Hajj, and you can go ahead with being intimate with your wife. So if you do that before the first tahallul, your whole Hajj is invalid. Even if you stood at Arafat and you went to Muzdalifah, but you did not perform the first tahallul and you had sex with your wife, that's it, it's gone. You're sinful, your Hajj is invalid, you're obliged to continue it, and you must slaughter a cow or a camel and give it to the poor in Mecca, and you're obliged to perform it next year to expiate for the one that you have nullified. But if you did it after the first tahallul, before tawaf and sa'i of Hajj, then you are sinful and you have to slaughter a sheep. And some scholars say you have to perform tawaf and sa'i al-Hajj in your ihram, because you have done such as a sin, and Allah knows best. Number 7, it's not only intercourse that is prohibited, also sexual foreplay that includes kissing and hugging, etc. So it does not invalidate your Hajj. It's a sinful act and requires expiation. Number 8, hunting and killing the game. So you in the state of Ihram, coming from India, coming from Egypt, coming from America, throughout your trip, as long as you had worn your Ihram garment and entered the state of Ihram from the miqat till you end your Ihram, you're not allowed to hunt. You're not allowed to kill the game. So you can't kill a rabbit if you see one, or an ostrich, or a deer, or any animal. Of course, you can kill what is harmful and attacking you. You can kill what Islam ordered you to kill, such as ravens, rats, scorpions, kites, snakes, vicious dogs, etc. And it is also prohibited for someone to assist you. So I'm in the state of Ihram, I have a shotgun, and someone tells me, listen, over there are a couple of birds. They're about to fly, shoot them, and then you can cook them and have a good meal. So he directed me to that, whether he is in the state of Ihram or not. Whether I am in the state of Ihram or not, if he's muhrim, he cannot tell me, listen, there's a deer behind that tree. Though I'm not muhrim and I can kill it, but he's not entitled, he's not allowed to direct me or to help me or to assist me in doing so. So the state of Ihram is a very important state to be respected and to be dealt with carefully. Number 9, no one, whether in consecration or not, may cut the trees of the haram area. So as a muhrim, I'm coming from America. I pass by the miqat. After passing Rabigh, I land in Jeddah and I see a tree and I cut it down. Is this permissible? I says, yes, no problem. If I'm not in the state of Ihram, there's no problem either. Once we enter the borders of Haram area, which begins, if you're driving from Jeddah, from Ash-Shumaisi, the checking point. This is the beginning of Haram. From there onwards, I cannot cut trees or grass or plants, except for those that Islam permits and allows us to do, whether you are in the state of Ihram or not. If it's green plants that are not harmful, it is not permissible. Branches that stretch into people's way and cause inconvenience may be cut because it's harmful. And there is a shrub called al-idkhir, and the people themselves grow it to be used in housing and to be used in their graves. This is permissible as per the request of Al-Abbas ibn Abdul Muttalib, the uncle of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. The Prophet agreed to that, sallallahu alayhi wasallam.